Do you believe that sugar makes kids hyperactive, or that blood is blue inside your body? What about the idea that humans only have 5 senses, or that cracking your knuckles leads to arthritis? If you said yes to any of these, you're not alone. But what if I told you that these are all myths? Yep, you heard me right. In today's video, we're going to bust 5 everyday myths that many people still believe. By the end of this, you'll have a whole new perspective on some common misconceptions that have been passed down for generations. Let's get started and challenge what you think you know. 1. Sugar makes kids hyper. Let's start with a big one. Sugar makes kids hyperactive. You've probably heard this countless times. Parents, teachers, and even doctors have claimed that giving kids sugar, like candies or sodas, leads to them bouncing off the walls. Sounds familiar, right? But guess what? It's not true. Numerous scientific studies have debunked this myth. The idea that sugar causes hyperactivity is actually a psychological reaction. Kids, especially at parties or during holidays, are often excited and active, and we mistakenly link that energy spike to sugar intake. In fact, research has shown that sugar has no direct connection to hyperactivity. A famous study even found that when children were given a placebo, something they believed was sugar, their behavior still became more energetic simply because they thought they'd had sugar. So, what's really going on? It's the environment around the kids. Think about it. They're in social settings, playing games, or opening presents, and that's when they tend to get really energetic. So next time you see a sugar-fueled frenzy, remember that it's probably more about excitement than what's on their plate. And it's important to note that children's behavior is influenced by many factors like their mood, surroundings, and how much sleep they've had. The more we educate ourselves about these things, the better we can stop spreading false ideas about sugar. 2. Blood is blue inside your body. Next up, blood is blue inside your body. This one is so widely believed, it's almost become part of the common vocabulary. We've all seen diagrams or heard people say, "I have blue veins, but when you cut me open, my blood's red." But here's the thing, blood is never blue. It's actually red all the time. The myth comes from the way our veins look under our skin. When you look at your veins, especially the ones near the surface, they appear blue because of how light reflects off them. But if you were to cut yourself and see the blood, it's always been red. The red color comes from hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout your body. So, while it might seem like blood is blue under your skin, that's just an illusion caused by light. This misunderstanding likely originated because people observed that blood looked darker in veins, and with limited scientific understanding at the time, people assumed it was a different color. In reality, the color of your blood varies depending on whether it's oxygenated or not. Oxygen-rich blood is bright red, while deoxygenated blood is darker red. So, while the myth of blue blood is pervasive, it's a simple mistake in how our bodies reflect light and how we interpret it. Part 3. Humans have only 5 senses. Now, here's another myth. Humans only have 5 senses. Most of us have been taught that the 5 senses are sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch, right? But in reality, humans have many more senses than that. In fact, we have at least 9 senses. Think about it. We also have the sense of balance, which helps us stay upright, and the sense of proprioception, which tells us where our body parts are in space. There's also thermoception, the ability to sense temperature, and nociception, which allows us to feel pain. And don't forget about the sense of interoception, which helps you feel what's happening inside your body, like when you're hungry or thirsty. The truth is, categorizing just 5 senses is an oversimplification of how our bodies perceive the world around us. These additional senses play a huge role in how we experience our daily lives, and it's time we recognize them. These senses can even help us perform complex activities like driving or dancing, where we rely on subtle feedback from our bodies to stay coordinated. If we started treating these additional senses as separate and important, it would be easier to appreciate how they impact our well-being. Some scientists even argue that there are up to 20 senses, depending on how broadly we define them. 4. Lightning never hits the same place twice. Here's a myth that's been around for ages. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. This sounds reassuring, but unfortunately, it's not accurate. In fact, lightning strikes the same places multiple times every year. There are many places, like the Empire State Building in New York or the Florida Keys, that get struck by lightning multiple times during the year. Lightning doesn't care about repeating itself. In fact, some structures are more prone to lightning strikes because they are tall, isolated, or have metal components that attract the electrical charge. And guess what? Lightning can strike the same spot within seconds. When it happens, the charged areas build up again, making the spot susceptible to another strike. So, if you're ever caught in a storm, don't rely on the idea that lightning won't hit the same place twice. It definitely could. Interestingly, certain places like mountain peaks, tall buildings, or radio towers are more likely to be hit by lightning than others. There are even instances where lightning has been recorded striking the same building dozens of times in a single year. This myth likely stems from the idea that lightning is a random, once-in-a-lifetime event. But the reality is that lightning is much more predictable and regular than we thought. So, don't be surprised if you see a bolt strike a spot again and again. 5. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. Last but certainly not least, cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. If you're a habitual knuckle cracker, you've probably heard this myth a million times. But is there any truth to it? No. Research shows that cracking your knuckles doesn't cause arthritis or any long-term damage to your joints. What's actually happening when you crack your knuckles is that the joints release gas bubbles, which causes a popping sound. It's totally harmless and doesn't lead to arthritis, despite what many people believe. In fact, a study conducted over 2 decades showed that habitual knuckle crackers didn't develop arthritis any more than non-crackers. The sound is just the release of nitrogen gas from the synovial fluid in the joints. Nothing dangerous, just a little noise. However, excessive cracking might cause some temporary discomfort or swelling, but it won't give you arthritis. So, go ahead and crack those knuckles, as long as it's not causing you pain. It's also worth noting that cracking knuckles is simply a habit for some people, whether it's stress relief or a nervous tic. But the important thing to understand is that it's not the cause of any major joint problems. If you do experience pain or discomfort, however, it's always a good idea to consult a doctor, as it could be a sign of something else. So, there you have it. 5 everyday myths you've probably believed your whole life. Surprising, isn't it? These myths have been passed down for generations, but now you're armed with the truth. The next time someone brings up one of these myths, you'll be ready to set them straight. If you learned something new today, don't forget to hit that like button. Share this video with your friends to bust these myths, and make sure to subscribe for more content that uncovers the truth behind common misconceptions. Let's keep discovering new things together. Until next time, stay curious.